Strut bars, strut braces, chassis braces, are they a placebo or are they an essential modification to a car? First of all, what do? Strut bars, strut braces, chassis braces, whatever you're looking at, whatever name you're using, they are designed to reduce flex in the chassis by bracing, strengthening weak points in the chassis. So how does that help? How does reducing flex in the chassis help? What happens when we reduce chassis flex? The what first? We want the springs and the shocks, the dampers, to deal with all of the movement. Why? Because that is what the spring and the damper are designed to do. The spring and the shock are tuned to work together so the wheel can move up and down in a controlled manner. Having maximum control of the wheels is essential for grip. We want the wheel to follow the contours in the road completely. We don't want the wheel leaving the ground, because when the wheel leaves the ground, the tyre leaves the ground, and that leaves us with zero grip on that corner, which is obviously not desirable. So for the springs and the dampers to work correctly, they need to have solid mounting relative to the car. We do not want flex in the chassis anywhere, and especially where the wishbones and the dampers and the springs attached to the car. Chassis flex is inconsistent. Its reaction to load changes according to how much the body of the car is flexed by. Dampers and springs are tuned in a perfect world, i.e. against solid mounting points. For them to work as intended, i.e. to give maximum grip, we want them to work in the same way on the car as they would when they were mounted solidly. Another major issue with chassis flex and movement of the wishbone and damper mounting points is geometry changes. If a pickup point is moving, it's going to be changing the geometry of the wheel versus the car. And considering your average wheel alignment is done down to fractions of a degree, even small movements in the mounting points will play a part in affecting the handling of the car. And all of this is why increasing chassis stiffness should, in theory, make a car handle better, and it should make a car ride better also. But does it? Does the theory match reality? Does increasing the stiffness of the chassis make the car perform better? To find out, I installed a front lower strut chassis, technically a subframe brace, to the Octavia RS project. The Audi TT Mark I, which uses the same chassis as the Octavia, has additional bracing from the factory, and this includes a lower front subframe brace. So I've copied the TT bracing by using the same mounting points on the subframe to see if it makes any difference, and if so, what difference does it make to the car. So without the subframe brace, the front end generally felt a bit loose, especially over sharp bumps, and sometimes this looseness could be felt through the steering wheel with vibration, and steering response was also a bit woolly, especially on turning. Maybe it took the car a while to react to steering inputs. Theoretically, this sounds like the kind of situation where a chassis brace could help, but did it? In short, when we fitted the chassis brace to the Octavia, the subframe brace to the Octavia, things did improve. The car felt more secure, more tied together over bumps. There felt like there was less movement in the shell of the car. Perhaps the best way to explain the difference is that the car felt newer. I would also say small bumps were less noticeable. The car definitely rolled better, and generally there was less rattles inside the cabin over bumps. On the handling front of things, it was less clear. I'm not sure I could feel a difference in grip with a brace over no brace. It's possible that the car responded faster to steering inputs, but the difference, if there were any at all, could be put down to a placebo effect. So is a chassis brace, a strut brace, worth it? In this case, even though the difference in cornering felt small enough to possibly be a psychological difference, I believe the difference in the ride was real. There was a noticeable improvement. For the cost, lower front chassis braces, the ones that attach to the subframe, the front subframe, they're usually a 2-point, and they usually come in around $100, €100, 100 quid mark. And for this money, I would say they are worth doing, especially on older cars, and especially on cars wearing bigger wheels and wider tyres, i.e. cars which have more cornering forces going through them than they were designed for. I don't see any downside to fitting them, the chassis braces, although ground clearance might be compromised slightly, but the upsides are many. For a start, it should reduce metal fatigue in the parts the brace is mounted to, in this case the front subframe brace. On this car, the brace gave a tangible increase in ride comfort, ride quality, cabin noise, and for that alone I think it's easily worth €100. And I think generally these subframe braces are a good investment because they're relatively low cost and they do have an effect, if nothing else, just on ride quality. That's the video, guys. Nice quick one. Probably do a video in the future fitting a front upper bar and see what difference that makes. If you want to see that, subscribe to the channel. That's it for now. Look after yourselves and I'll see you again next time.